Sounds seedy and weird? Of course it is. But it's still not the strangest thing happening in Washington right now. Tonight we have more on the ongoing saga of the Trump dossier. Senators Chuck Grassley and Lindsey Graham have launched a probe into former National Security Advisor Susan Rice. In the very final minutes of the Obama administration, just after noon on Inauguration Day 2017, Rice sent herself an email on the White House computer system. In it, she described a meeting she'd attended just 2 weeks before, on January 5th. At that meeting were President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, FBI Director Jim Comey, Deputy AG Sally Yates, and Susan Rice herself. According to Rice in this email, Obama instructed the officials in the room to consider withholding national intelligence from the incoming Trump administration in case they were compromised by Russia. In other words, almost 2 months after the presidential election, Barack Obama viewed Trump not as his democratically elected successor, but as a traitor and a Russian spy. Obama viewed himself as someone who somehow had the right to withhold government documents from an elected president. That's not the behavior of someone who believes in democracy. And yet that meeting set the tone for that year and all subsequent arguments since. Democrats have treated Trump and his election as illegitimate ever since then. And at the heart of their case against Trump and this administration is the Steele dossier. To this day, the dossier is the only publicly available document that details alleged collusion with Russia. Now, of course, we've talked a lot about the dossier on this program, but relatively little about what is in it. What does the dossier actually claim? Is any of it true? After more than a year of probing by politicians and intelligence agencies and journalists, here's the sum total of what we actually know about the document that started all of this. We know the dossier was compiled by Christopher Steele, acting as a contractor of Fusion GPS, with funds supplied by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC. The dossier was a form of opposition research designed to be used against Trump in the presidential campaign. It was not an intelligence document, it was Oppo. The dossier claims that Russian authorities didn't simply collude with Trump during the 2016 election, the charge you hear a lot about. It also claims that Russian intelligence cultivated Donald Trump as a kind of asset, a kind of one-man sleeper cell for more than 5 years. Needless to say, there's no evidence of that. The dossier also claims the Kremlin fed the Trump team intel reports on Hillary Clinton and other political opponents for years. There's no proof of that either. It claims Trump was favored by Moscow with lucrative Russian real estate deals as part of his cultivation as a political asset, that sleeper cell. No proof there either. According to the dossier, Trump and Russia were exchanging intelligence with each other for at least 8 years. No proof of that. The dossier goes on to describe a clandestine meeting in Prague between Trump lawyer Michael Cohen and a Kremlin representative, supposedly that took place in August of 2016. This is one of the very few claims in the dossier that has been conclusively checked, and it's false. Cohen wasn't even outside the U.S. at the time the meeting supposedly took place. In sum, the Steele dossier is absurd. The closer you read it, the more absurd it is. Take 10 minutes and do so yourself. It's online. And as you read it, ask yourself, who would believe something like this? It's so transparently partisan and unlikely and stupid and flimsy. It reads like a parody of a badly written spy novel. At the same time he was firing people on The Apprentice, Donald Trump was working with Vladimir Putin to subvert America. It's hard even to say that with a straight face. It's that stupid. And yet keep in mind and never forget, this is the document the FBI used to justify spying on American citizens. These are the claims that Democrats in Congress repeatedly cited as the reason to stop the normal functioning of government in order to investigate the administration. This is the famous dossier that even today progressives in the media are spending millions in an attempt to corroborate. And it's all a stupid joke. Amazingly, a lot of people in power fell for it. Congressman Ron DeSantis is a Republican representing the state of Florida and joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Good evening.
So the meeting that Susan Rice describes in her email between the president and vice president, Sally Yates, Comey, is really revealing. So Trump was accused of considering Obama foreign with the birther stuff, but Obama actually turned out did consider Trump foreign, a foreign agent. Can a sitting president deny government documents, intelligence, to an incoming president?
I don't see how you can do that. I mean, just think about what Yates was on to at the time with Michael Flynn met with Kislyak, the Russian ambassador. That was one of the reasons why she sent the FBI agents to Flynn once he got in the... So they were creating some type of boogeyman, really out of Flynn acting like any incoming national security advisor would.
A president's authority and legitimacy comes from voters winning an election. That's what makes you the president. So how can one president say, I don't think the next guy should have this, I don't think he's worthy of this information? That just doesn't...
Yeah, I think it's improper to do that. And it's interesting, this January 5th meeting in the Oval with Comey, what did Comey do that very next day? That was when he briefed Trump on the dossier. He went to Trump Tower, he showed him the dossier. That eventually got leaked to CNN, and then that allowed the dossier to get put out into the bloodstream. Also, during this whole transition time, you have an unprecedented campaign of leaking classified information designed to put a cloud over Trump's incoming presidency. So I think Susan Rice has a lot of questions that she's going to have to answer. Why would you all of a sudden, right as you're leaving the White House, do that email saying Obama said do it by the book? It's just a really odd thing to do. She was trying to create a record, and the question is, why did she feel the need to do that?
Well, what's the answer?
I think we have to find out the answer. I mean, I think that it was clear that by the time Trump got inaugurated, I mean, you had the permanent bureaucracy and the Obama holdovers. I mean, they were feeding information to the press on a daily basis. The first 2 or 3 months of his administration was constant bombshell reports, quote unquote, all based on anonymous sources, all based on former or current U.S. officials. And that really started from the day he got elected all the way until the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel.
So the dossier itself, which is the center of all this dossier that BuzzFeed published for public consumption, claims that Trump was being cultivated by Russian intelligence for 5 years prior to becoming president. Is there any evidence that's true?
No evidence that that's true. And think about even what they used for Carter Page. I mean, the idea that the Russian the energy company was going to give him a 10% stake or 20% stake in a company that is so big, that would have been $10 billion that they were going to give to Carter Page, and the FBI used that to get surveillance. So the only thing that has definitely been corroborated is that Carter Page did travel to Russia during the campaign. He did that. He gave a public speech. None of the other key facts have been corroborated at all.
Well, and not surprisingly, am I overstating it when I say, as just a normal person reading the dossier, it seems prima facie absurd? Like, you'd have to be a moron to take that at face value. Was that your reaction to it?
Yeah, that's my reaction. I think it's spectacular, and I think it's something that Comey was actually right about. Salacious, but unverified.
And yet they used it as the basis for spying. That's upsetting. Congressman, thank you. Good to see you.